Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome a remarkable guest on today's podcast. Alessia Messuti is a seasoned professional with a rich background in communication, specializing in leveraging new media for social inclusion and local development. Since 2009, Alessia has been making significant strides as a training specialist in both the private and development sectors. Her expertise spans instructional design, quality assurance for e learning, facilitation of online and face to face trainings, and the innovative use of Web 2.0, mobile methods, MOOCs, and gamification in learning environments. Her journey has taken her across border, having worked in Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Not only has she made her mark in these countries, but Alessia has also contributed to workshops in Algeria, Bangladesh, Bosnia, Egypt, Germany, Jordan, Kenya, Philippines, South Africa, Uganda, and Zambia. A polyglot with proficiency in Italian, English, French, with a charming Italian accent, and Spanish, Alicia's linguistic versatility mirrors her ability to connect with diverse audiences. So, without any further ado, let's delve into the world of learning, technology, and social impact with the incredible Alessia Messuti. Hi, Alessia, how are you?
Hi, Chani. Sagar. How are you? I'm fine. I'm here in Torino, in Italy. So you mentioned all of the place I've been traveling, but I'm based in Italy. So given also my charming Italian accent, so I'm super fine. And today is a very sunny day here in the northern part of Italy, and I'm very glad to participate in this conversation with you.
No, it's my pleasure, Alicia. It's a wonderful to first of all connect with you. Secondly, we are just moving out of pandemic, and we are leveraging technology, e-learning, online discussions have become prime importance. So I'm looking forward to learning, uh, aspects on various uh, experiences and expertise that you have shared with people around the globe. So, Alicia, before we move into the core topic, I just wanted to understand from you, what does future of work mean to you as someone who has been in the industry? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, no, thanks for this question. And indeed, this was also one of the team we discussed when we crossed each other on LinkedIn. Future of work is a topic that is dear to me. Of course, as you saw from my LinkedIn profile, I am specialized in technology for learning, but I work for an organization that is called International Labor Organization. I'm not a labor specialist, but I work for the training center of this organization. Therefore, the future work is at the core of the mandate and of the many initiatives that the ILO is working at. And of course, being not a labor specialist, but a learning specialist and a learning and development specialist, I look at this theme through the lenses of learning and trainings. Uh, Therefore, I mean, at the center, and also I contribute to several initiatives, and we look at how new technologies, capacity buildings can enable people, can enable constituents in order to embrace, in order to adapt. And understand of the meaning of work, how the nature of work is changing, how the nature of work is reshaping society, and how can we ensure decent work for all. From the point of view of a training specialist, this means that we need to understand also how people learn nowadays, what are the new skills and what are the new competencies that people need uh, to 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 have in order to stay up to date in our present society. Therefore, how to design and develop curriculum, training and learning initiatives that allow people to be up to date with the contemporary changes. So the future work is seen through the lenses of learning and training, and is seen through the lenses of how can we use and leverage on technologies and learning methodologies that could allow people to be fully included and not excluded from what is happening right now.
Thank you for sharing your perspective, Alicia. I just wanted to ask you here. Uh, this question might be very basic, but I wanted your perspective. Reason being, uh, at the stage we are having advanced tools, technology is available. It is making this particular podcast even possible. Okay, so, uh, let's say the fundamental of teaching is about absorbing and learning the subject itself, right? And subject could be here, for example, uh, let's say economics. Okay,
Mhm.
now someone who doesn't have a a, 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 a a fundamental process to learn and understand that subject itself, right? With having these tools available, what are some of the fundamental challenges that you feel still exists in this global world, where of course technology and tools are there to enable those learnings, but what are some of the fundamental challenges that you feel exist and also needs to be taken care of?
Yeah, that's a nice comment, interesting comment, because as you rightly say, technology nowadays is mostly available everywhere, or at least people are mostly familiar with the different range of technologies, and technology is also rapidly evolving, and it's allowing us to do things that we would have not expected. Even, I mean, the pandemic accelerated this process, and indeed, like, we are having this podcast right now that maybe like 2 or 3 years ago we would have not think about connecting each other and having this conversation. On the other hand, I think that we should not, I mean, I'm talking from the perspective of a person that is working in capacity building. Technology is there, technology um, is a facilitator in the process. On the other hand, is just a tool, and we need to mix technology with other elements that are fundamentals and essentials in order to create effective, meaningful learning experiences. So in order to enable people to learn about economics, for example, or any other topics, from the most complex to the simplest one. And these other elements, which are essentials, are I usually refer to two other elements which are essential to me in order to create effective learning experiences. The first one is pedagogy and methodological, let's say, assets, because you cannot leverage fully on technology if you don't have a sound pedagogical design behind it. So if you don't understand how people will utilize technology, what type of technology do they have available, and what are the features and characteristics, but especially how people use this type of technology. Are they familiar with that? And what are the learning objectives that we can achieve through these technologies? So pedagogical assets. And then on the other hand, also the space. So space is a dimension that is sometimes unseen, not super considered, or at least not considered at first instance, but it's also important because we learn in a space, we learn in a dimension. We are human beings that are moving from one space to another, and this, for example, the space we are having this conversation is virtual today, and therefore we need to be aware of what are the limits, boundaries, possibilities, opportunities provided by this space, and we need to be comfortable with this space. On the other hand, learning can also happen face to face. Therefore, we need to understand how technology can be fully equipped in the space we are occupying as human beings, and how can we make use of it? How can space be functional to learning and not a barrier to learning? And this is something that usually I give importance to when I have to deliver training, being it a virtual or a face to face. I want to make people comfortable with the space they are in, the technology they are in, and then can happen through a sound pedagogical design.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that. I understand, because somewhere I also come from my experiences in life are also coming from, let's say, capacity building, and have been in the same domain. I have a very interesting question for you here. You know, as someone who is professionally helping organizations and of course team members, or impacting the end user, I'm sure you would be doing your homework, you would be understanding your audience, and then you will be preparing your uh, uh, content and delivery methodology accordingly. But on the other side, how can we, or let me say I, learn to be a better learner? Because we all are different, right? So what are some of the fundamentals that I can keep in mind before I want to absorb and learn something? So your thoughts there.
Mhm. Okay, this is, I think, the first time that I have been asked this question about how can I be a better learner. Um, I think that's part of our motivation, our personality. I think we learn even without, let's say, um, putting attention to it. No, so we are learning continuously. We are learning every moment of our day, even though we're not formally, let's say, putting ourselves sitting in front of a desk with a book in our hand. So I think that part of part of the answer to your question is to keep up curiosity towards new things. I think that learning is also partially the ability to adapt, to change. Therefore, like every moment in our day is an opportunity to learn. And also, I think last week when we had a conversation about this podcast, I think we focused on also failures. No, the fact that we tend to share with the friends and with colleagues at work, most importantly success, and what are the achievements that made us great professionals. But indeed we are also made of many failures. I mean, our personalities, our careers are made of many things that didn't go in the right in the right direction, and we learned from these. So I think that to be a better learner is keeping up a good keeping up a mentality that is open to curiosity, open, this sparks creativity, but also embracing failures, embracing what type of reflection we can derive from what we failed up, what are the things that didn't go the way we planned, and how can we improve as well. So I would say that this is my answer to that, or at least this is what I personally try to do, because I'm not only a trainer, I'm also a learner myself. I'm a lifelong learner.
So what is your process of lifelong learning? What are some of the fundamentals that subconsciously you keep in mind before you absorb information?
My process, I think that I am quite a reflective person. So my process is I definitely like learning by doing, but I have this reflective dimension. If I look around now where I'm sitting, I am in the living room of my house, and one of the first things that I have, it's this notebook. No, so this is a notebook, and this is just one of the many notebooks that I have. That I have at disposal and I'm comfortable with. I take a lot of notes, and this is happening on a notebook. This is happening on my phone because my brain is constantly absorbing, but also processing information, and I love to take note of sudden thought and ideas that could derive from a conversation, from something that is happening, from something that is I'm working at. And usually these notes are not dead there. Usually I go back to my notes, and these notes that help me then creating something new. So I think that doing is definitely an important part of my learning process. Then there is this reflection that allow me to further absorb, but also to spark creativity, and then help me with creating new things. So I think that also the creation part is quite an important dimension of learning. So it's not only about absorbing and reflecting, but you have to be able to create something new. And this is also what I try to enable whenever I have to design a training, whether in virtual setting or face to face. I want to make people able to create new things, to produce. That's the only way someone can be active in a learning process, I think.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing your journey and how you do it. And you beautifully shared reflection, creation, and by doing. So yeah, thank you for sharing those keywords, because I think that is where, I'm sure viewers, I would want them to absorb and write. In fact, make note of it. So Alicia, you also mentioned that you have been, you have transited your background from, let's say, communication to becoming a training specialist with a focus on new media. So can you throw some light on how this transition happened?
Yeah, sure. Indeed, I was born as a communication specialist, let's say, if you allow me to say that, because I studied foreign languages and international communication. And at the beginning of my, let's say, end of the studies and beginning of my career, I was working in a web radio. I also was my thesis, my Master of Art thesis was focusing on new media and the language used by new media, and how traditional radio and web radio could, let's say, um, could improve the way people connect, could improve social inclusion of foreign students in my university, but also of migrants in Spain, because I spent some months in Spain. So this was the focus of my studies and the focus of my initial interest. And then of course, now, if I have to tell you what I do now, uh, today I am a technology enhanced learning expert. I work for a United Nations agency, and let's say on my daily, as part of my daily task, I handle capacity building projects where the focus is on using technology for learning. So I provide advisory services to colleagues, to constituents, to other UN agencies on how to best integrate technologies and for learning purposes. So there are some common patterns in how in between, like how I started and what I'm doing right now. Of course, communication is a very important feature of what I'm doing right now, because communication is one of the skills that every professional needs to have nowadays, even though I'm not a
Absolutely.
communication specialist. Usually I tend to say that communication is not a soft skill, it's one of the hardest skills ever, because indeed it's very
Yes,
important to communicate clearly. And communication is also one of the most important skills if you are a trainer, no? Because you need to communicate clearly, and you have to also be able to listen and to understand the target audience that you have in front of you in a training room or in a virtual room. So how did I transition? Let's say that I was open to some of the things that happened to me were very casual, were very random, but I was open to embrace the opportunities given to me by life. Indeed, as a person studying communication and foreign languages, I wanted to travel. I wanted to stay abroad. I wanted to go away from Italy in order to be exposed to new experiences, to new cultures. And that's how I started. I studied in Spain. I also worked a little bit in Spain in the field of translation, but that was not for me. I realized that only after I graduated. And then I decided to embark in the field of international cooperation and in the field of United Nations. So I decided to do some internship, which for me was the way to switch a little bit the focus in my career, because I didn't have so much experience in training while I studied a completely different topic. So I did a few internship in the field of training and instructional design. Some of them were in Italy, in the private sector, and then I managed to go first to Geneva and to work for a United Nations agency there. This led me also to do an applied research project in the Netherlands with the contribution of the Open University of the Netherlands. So little by little, I really deep dive in what learning is, how to design effective learning experiences, what instructional design means. Nowadays, instructional design is quite a common term, but when I started in 2013, it was there was not a super clear path to learn about instructional design. There were not so many certification about it. Nowadays, you can go to many platforms and learn and get a certificate in that. So it was a very learning by doing process, and it was quite exciting, quite challenging as well, because doing internship is not always easy. It's sometimes challenging because you need to self-sustain yourself. But I'm quite proud of myself, because this path was made of different steps, which now brought me to work in a place that is close to my family. And it's a job that I love. I love this job because it's really helping me to put my to spark my creativity, to put my passion at work, to travel, and also to do things that can have an impact. Can have an impact for the learners, for the beneficiaries I work with.
Thank you, Alessia, for sharing that. I'm a little curious to know about one of the project experiences that you remember. That is where you realize that internally, not for the world, but internally you understood that I have made an impact. Can you talk about that and share that?
Sure. Um, there are many. Fortunately, there are many, because that's as I say, like, I love my job, and I like what I do, because first of all, I learn while I work, and I think that's one of the most important thing at work, like keeping up with a nice and steady learning curve, because otherwise you lose interest in what you do. And in terms of projects that I like, maybe I can just recall one of the recent one. I mean, last year I was usually, as you were correctly mentioning at the beginning, I travel all over the world, because the International Labour Organization is a global organization, a United Nations agency. Therefore, like, we work with a diverse audience distributed all over the world. But last year, I had the opportunity to work on a project with Italian schools. So this is something that usually not doesn't happen very very often. That I have the opportunity to work with beneficiaries coming from my own country, and the project was about enabling teachers to embrace learning technologies and learning methodologies in order to transform the way they deliver training in informal schools, in secondary schools. In Italy also, not always, but we tend to have a traditional way of delivering lectures in schools. And after pandemic, when people resumed their normal way of delivering classes, it was even more important to focus on how we could learn from what happened, leverage on the tools that were utilized during the restrictions and the COVID pandemic, and create more meaningful and rich experiences in the classroom. And so this was a very very interesting and rewarding experience for me, because I could get in touch with a sample of teachers, interviewing them, understand what were the challenges that they were facing. And this was also very close, because I was an Italian. I had so many colleagues that had the children during pandemic, and I could understand what were the challenges that they were faced. My father was also a secondary school teacher. Therefore, this was like a topic that was dear to me. And in the span of 9 months with these teachers, we were working collaboratively. They were sharing with us what was their interest, what were their challenges, and they were also very keen to understand from me as a trainer that does not work in a school but work in an international context, what are the tools and the methods that we could utilize in order to make learning more fun, more engaging, more conversational, more interactive. So we built with these teachers a toolkit that was called the School Toolkit, that is now available for Italian schools at the national level, even though the teachers I work with were from my region. And this toolkit contains a series of methods and tools sheet that explain to other teachers how to, for example, deliver a math class, a science class, a foreign language class in a way that you fully include everyone in the classroom. There is no one way modality to deliver, so that we move away from the classical sage on the stage and more to the guide on the side type of way of delivering a classroom. And it was very rewarding. The teachers were very happy. They felt challenged at the beginning, but then they understood the process. They understood, they were very keen to learn techniques that I was able to convey to them. And now this project is online, and anyone can access to it. So I'm looking forward to meet teachers in the next years and see how this has changed their way of delivering.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Alessia, for sharing that. Just wanted to understand, how social inclusion plays an important role, and how do you perceive it in context of, new media and technology for learning?
Hmm. Yeah, social inclusion, I mean, of course, is about having people fully included in our societies. I mean, this is just like a very simple definition of it. And therefore, again, from the lenses of what I do, no, being a trainer, being a capacity building expert, I believe learning, education, are important in order to create the opportunities to include people in our society. The COVID pandemic, of course, was also one of the causes to exacerbate also some of the elements that exclude some categories, some individuals from our society, from women to disabled people, to people that live in area where they don't have access to the minimum services that allow them to live adequately. So learning that is also enhanced by technology allowed us to reach out, to create the condition for people to access learning where they were and through the means that they had at disposal. But also, maybe I can mention a project I was working not recently, but at the beginning of my path here at ITCLO, which was a project that was called Mobile Learning it was a mobile learning project and it was a mobile learning project for young entrepreneurs. I was contributing to the rollout of this project, which was a curriculum that the ILO had rolled out for many years. It was called SIYB, Start and Improve Your Business, therefore targeting young entrepreneurs in equipping them to adopt, to learn about what does it mean to set up a new business and how to roll it out, and what is a marketing plan, and how to create a sustainable business. And the mobile learning aspect was important because at a certain point, with a specific target audience, we realized that people were not able to learn online the way we thought, through a computer, not through a normal desktop. And therefore we had to creatively think about how we could convey and allow teachers to trainers to get in touch with students and learners in a way that they could utilize their mobile phone. So the mobile learning aspect of it was how to create micro learning nuggets, how to utilize micro learning methodologies that allow people to receive an SMS, reflect on it, text back a feedback, or utilize the mobile phone and features such as, for example, camera and microphone to interview potential stakeholders, to take pictures of their surroundings, and maybe contribute to assignments. So the mobile learning device was a powerful tool to fully include them in the learning experience, because we sometimes when you create a curriculum, you tend to think about, okay, we need some content and we need a classroom to deliver, or we need a learning platform where this content is hosted. But what if people do not have access to a computer? What if people do not have access to Wi-Fi all the time? What if people cannot travel to the classroom at the time that we schedule it? So the mobile learning dimension was indeed important. So mobile learning, not only because people were accessing learning through their devices, but also because you have to think that learning happens in informal and in informal setting. Learning happens in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So mobile learning is also about finding the right methodologies that allow people to access to learning, and also thinking about what does fit into one device screen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that. I have an interesting question here. Adult learning is different from different from, let's say, teenage learning, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, or kids learning. Um, so what is your advice for adult learners on areas that they can focus? I think I asked a similar question earlier about how can we become a better learner,
Better
but still,
learner.
in that context, I would love to hear more from you on that, and some of the approaches that you feel works best, if you were to advise other capacity building professionals, or who are contributing in a similar domain, so you can address both the concerns. Yeah,
Okay, so from one side, what are I mean, as an adult learner, can you repeat the first part of the question? Like,
of
as an
course.
adult learner, what you should
So
focus on?
yeah, how is adult learning different from other learnings, be it a teenage learner, or someone who is a kid, and of course they are in a process where they go for schooling. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts there, and then you can share about how can other folks who are in your industry, what is your suggestion for them,
Mhm.
on if they are in the same domain and they are in the adult learning. So what are your learnings and experiences or
Okay.
approaches?
Mm, okay. I don't have so much experience in in teaching, for example, to young students, or to in the formal education sector. What I tend to say when it comes to learning is that, I mean, quite naturally for me, is that people need other people to learn, whether you are a kid, whether you are an adult. So I think that is very important, and to create the conditions for that. And that's why I think that whenever you as a capacity building specialist, you are designing a training, a learning event, a session. It doesn't have to be like a master course. It could just be like a 1 hour Zoom session. You need always to strike a balance between the content transfer component and the co-creation component, the conversational component, any component that allow learners to be active in the process. And being active in the process doesn't mean that you need to, raise your hand and pick up the microphone and speak in front of everyone in plenary, because this is not for everyone. And we know that there are different personalities and different characteristics. So there are shy people and there are more like dominant people in a classroom. Being an active learner means having the possibility in a session to be triggered by a question and to reflect upon this question, to share your thoughts and ideas with a peer, for example, separately from all of the plenary, silently, by taking some notes and sharing a comment in the chat, by working with a small group of colleagues and contributing to the conversation, by reporting, by writing up an assignment, etc., etc. So I think that this is a very important aspect for me, like that people should focus on when designing learning sessions for adult learners, because it's true that sometimes it happened to me in the past that they told me, these people are coming to the classroom and they are expecting you to teach them something. So they are expecting you to talk about, that topic. They are there to learn, to listen to you. That's true. I mean, you don't have to throw people immediately in the playground, what I sometimes call it, because they may feel a little bit skeptical. They may feel a little bit out of their comfort zone. But it's about creating a balance between those moments of delivering and the moments of conversation and co-creation, when then at the end of the session people are delivering for you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
So,
don't know if I
Alicia,
answered your question. I don't
no,
know
I
if I
think,
answered
see,
your
more than that, I think you shared your perspective and your experience, right? And see, I mean, there is no specific path. There is a perspective which I'm sure I would be introspecting, and along with me, viewers would be introspecting, and that's the goal. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you, Aditya, for sharing that. What are your thoughts on as post pandemic online form of learning where we are leveraging technology, or for that matter, let's say gamification in the online context, okay, to engage with the participants, right? So what are your learnings, what are your thoughts there, some of the unique, let's say, challenges, and how do we solve for the challenges if we are doing this online for a long period of time?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is I mean, pandemic forced us to convert everything that we were doing in virtual settings. These and we all know that this led to probably create also some online learning fatigue, because of course, shifting from one model to another was then creating some challenges, not only for learners but also for designers and for trainers that had to stay on the other side of the screen. Now I see that for also in my organization, a lot of trainings, that a lot of initiatives are resuming in face to face, and
Yeah,
that's nice, and that's correct. I think now one of the challenges is how to create um, effective and balanced blended and hybrid type of learning experiences, because one of the challenges, for example, that we were dealing with recently also in my organization is that people were eager to resume face-to-face training, for example, because indeed the warmth of the human connection that you can achieve in face-to-face is not the same as you could do in virtual settings. On the other hand, it's a challenge to create the condition for people to travel back again, to sustain the cost of traveling, and also the different logistical challenges that are behind traveling, like such as getting a visa, for example, you have to get out of your country. So this was a real and practical challenge that, for example, in the last months, I had to think about, okay, how can we achieve this and make sure that people are able to attend a training, but with these concrete and practical challenges. In terms of methodologies, because you mentioned gamification. Gamification is an approach that has been used by my organization in the last 5 to 6 years. Gamification is about utilizing game elements into sessions and events without really playing a game, without telling people that you are playing a game. Because sometimes if you say to people, especially in my field, like, okay, now let's play a game, they may say like, okay, now we are getting out of the serious thing and we are, being a kid at school. Gamification then it's about utilizing in a subtle way elements that allow people to have fun, to get them to be engaged in a session, such as, for example, collaboration, so enhancing collaboration among peers, or putting some time pressure in order to achieve a specific learning objective within a session, creating that little competition that is not harmful, sometimes also leading to some kind of reward that maybe is derived from peer-to-peer feedback. So these are little things, a little adjustment that usually I utilize in my session in order to gamify them, in order to make them more engaging, in order to go away from a PowerPoint presentation and feel people like they are contributing somehow to the session. And that's also has to do with your question about challenges, because one of the challenges, not only practical challenges such as traveling, but one challenge is about also keeping people attention.
Yeah, because nowadays the distraction is less than a goldfish, right? Less than 6 seconds. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. What are the new trends that you see, in this technology focused learning? Like, where do you see this shaping up in the next 5-10 years?
In the next 5-10 years, well, I really don't know. I mean, I'm always like um amazed by what has been. I mean, if I look back at my trajectory and what I did, like every year I was really focusing on something different. Indeed, the technology is evolving rapidly, and every year you could embrace a new trend and utilize it to leverage, from mobile learning to massive open online learning courses, gamification, serious games, virtual reality, augmented reality. These are all trends that are already, in place. And last but not least, also artificial intelligence now is really playing a pivotal role in how also learning and education are getting shaped. Definitely in the present and the short future, upcoming future, I'm very interested in getting to know how or deeply involved in how AI can benefit not only learners but also trainers, instructional designers, in optimizing processes that have to do with curriculum creation, content development, but also research and empathizing with learners prior to a training. So there are definitely a lot of tools, but we need to understand how to use them fully. At the training center of the ILO, recently we also released a board game, so a very traditional game, but which is about navigating AI and trying to have a conversation about how AI can be beneficial to learning and development professionals. So it's not about giving you a solution, but it's about triggering you questions about how can we use it, and what are the tools that we have at disposal, and what are the ethical consideration behind it. But let me add also that it's very easy to get caught by these trends in technology, because every moment there is a new trend, and there is a novelty, and everything seems very exciting, but nothing is exciting without a purpose. So that really, like, we need to consciously think about, okay, technology is functional to learning if it provides an added value. Otherwise, it's just a gadget. It's just a tech. Is a new tech gadget. And for that, I advise just a model that could be useful for any capacity building professional, that is called SAMR, SAMR. I don't know if you are familiar with that model. And this model, usually it's very valuable to understand if you are using technology to substitute any other traditional technology, or in order to redefine, augment learning. And I mean, I don't want to spend too much time into the model, because people can Google about it, but that's a very valid way of assessing if you're using technology and integrating technology in the right way.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that model, and also sharing your extended advice on how one can go about it. You've been working at various cultures, so how do you adapt instructional design and learning solutions? Like, be it in a country like Bangladesh, Jordan, or Kenya, or the Philippines, and what advice you have for professionals who are working at diverse international settings?
Yeah, this is fascinating, and yeah, it has to do also with the question that, how can I be a better learner? I mean, indeed, like, you need to, in order to work with a global and diverse audience, you cannot be expert of everything. So the first thing is really, like, to be conscious about it. So you cannot be expert of everything. You cannot have lived in every country, and you cannot have being in touch with everyone before. So being very cautious and being very open to learn about new cultures. And usually, whenever I have to create or deliver a training in a country where I'm not familiar with the specific culture, this participatory approach that I was talking so much throughout our conversation is very helpful, because you can research as much as you want on the internet. You can research as much as you want, being in touch with the organization you will deliver. You can get data about specific target audience through, for example, reports, through, for example, survey, etc., etc. But being present, being open to have a conversation with people is fundamental. And also providing also an opportunity for learners to get in touch with you, and understanding that there is a bridge, and there is an opportunity to have a conversation, and you are not there to deliver a class, but you are there to understand how they are, how they feel, what are their expectations, and how they would like and feel comfortable to contribute to the classroom. This is a very important aspect that I usually advise any trainer, any facilitator, as a first step in a course, in a training, in a session. Putting people in their comfort zone, and also let's say, let them discover that you are a human being as well. So you are there, you're not perfect, you are there to listen, you're there to learn about them, you learn to grow with them, because at the end of the day, the learning experience is something that you achieve in a collaborative way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that. Towards the middle of the conversation, you mentioned about experiences and how challenges and failures also contribute and makes you a learner. On that note, I would love to know on one of your, let's say, challenging stories or failure stories, which really made an impact on you as a person, as a professional, and you have grown with it.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about challenges, and definitely. I'm thinking about, I mean, one of the recent challenges is really related to something that I'm deeply personally experiencing right now. I've just become the mother of a baby. And, for me, like as a professional, like this would be like one of the big challenges I will be working at in the upcoming future when I will resume work. And I think one of the things that I've learned in the last month of being a mother is definitely that I have to be able to ask for help, to ask for support, to delegate tasks, because usually I'm someone that likes to be in control, likes to be in charge, likes to take a full responsibility of what I'm doing. And definitely now there is a need to strike a balance between professional and personal life, and these learning insights I'm having at home, and the fact of I'm not able to do all of the things that I was thinking to have at the beginning of my day. Definitely this will be learning insights also for my professional career. And being able to create a team, and the sense of a team, and being able to delegate tasks, and ask for help, and also say like, no, thank you, I can't do that today. So these are all little things that definitely, as a professional, as a mother, as a human being, probably are very common also to other people that maybe are not experiencing the same life experience as I'm doing, but definitely is important to accept our limitations.
Thank you, Alessia, for sharing that, sharing your challenging journey, and I hope you would be learning from it and evolving, and in maybe towards the next podcast, I'll be asking you some questions around
Sure.
what is how it has been. I think we have few comments from the viewers. I think Mariam has acknowledged the impact that you have created during your work. So I think she has mentioned that. And also we have a question from Martin. Martin is asking, what type of assessment methods are effective in tech-enabled learning programs?
Okay, I see that. What type of assessment methods are effective? It really depends on the learning objectives that you are designing for. So I would say that um, you usually, like in an online course, in an online session, um, depending on if you're focusing on knowledge transfer or knowledge acquisition, depending on the, let's say, different levels of performance you want to achieve. Assessment could be shaped in different ways, from let's say a simple knowledge check and quiz-based methodology, towards a more effective simulation, um, co-created assignments, and for example, I can tell you that recently we also, since I was mentioning that at the training center we were experiencing new technologies such as virtual reality. Virtual reality also enabled us to create real life simulations, for example, for labor inspectors. So this was leading us to create an assessment where people had to really perform, and a procedure, a labor inspection procedure in virtual reality, and this was enabled by new technology. But of course, this is not scalable in all of the trainings that we are doing. So I would say that in order to answer your question, Martin, you really need to think about, okay, what are the learning objectives? What is the level of knowledge and performance you want learners to achieve, and then match these learning objectives with sound training activities and assessment that allow learners to perform in a right way. Sometimes the simplest things, such as, for example, a quiz, or a branched scenario, or a written assignment, could suit you. On the other hand, of course, the technology can lead us to more performing, let's say, aspects, such as augmented reality, virtual reality, a type of simulation, game-based type of simulation, etc.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that. Before we end this conversation, I would love to know more about, where do you feed your curiosity? Which means, what are the kind of books that you read? What are the kind of podcasts you listen to? And how do you ensure that you're always learning? So it would be great to get to know more about that.
Thank you. Yeah, different things because given that it's true that I work in the technology enhanced learning area, but I don't only listen and learn about it, but there is I use a lot LinkedIn to continuously learning, and I follow a specific initiative that is called Women in Tech, Women in Technology, and I love learning from their articles and their posts because that's very also dear to me and close to me to see how technology can also support women in their career. On the other hand, recently I've been learning a lot. I've been reading a lot books regarding the practice of collage. Collage is a analog collage, like how to utilize paper and scissors and glue to create visual aids. So I'm into this now because I feel also that sometimes getting away from technology and being totally analog is also very very special, very special and important for us to connect with our deep human being. And podcasts, yeah, podcast is also like something that I like to keep company, especially now that I spend sometimes like nights without too much sleep, and I am. But this is an Italian podcast. It's again like the podcast of an Italian journalist that is called Michela Murgia, and and the podcast is about stories of women who have managed to succeed in times where it was maybe challenging for them. I mean, still challenging nowadays. So I'm learning a lot from the stories of other women that have been working in different sectors. But I love listening to this podcast. It's a nice mix of storytelling and inspiration.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that. You have any final comments for our viewers? Do you want to share anything?
I see that. I mean, first of all, I want to thank Mariam for that nice comment. I know Mariam, and that's very very rewarding to read such a comment. I'm very happy that I participated to this conversation saga with you today because it was a very natural conversation. It was a very I loved the way you conducted the interview and the way you researched about my profile and what I could share with you. So this is also something that is, I mean, you as an host, you are doing your job very well, and it was very comfortable for me to have this conversation. And I hope that it was interesting, that I could. That I was able to share some of the insights from my job, and it was also a little bit of fresh air in these days in which my routine is of course dedicated to the priority of a new life that has born. But it's nice to connect as well with the other side of myself, and also like work is my passion as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
No, thank you, Alicia, for your kind words, and thank you, viewers, for joining us and listening to this podcast. And I promise, few months from now, I would love to get Alicia back because there's a lot to discuss. We'll dive into a particular specific topic, and we can have a good podcast around it. And also, keep watching, and I'll be sharing, and I'll be continuing this journey because I'm on a mission to interview 1,000 leaders in the future of work. So yeah, so I am here today with Alessia, and thank you very much.
Good luck, Sagar.